and welcome to M365's webinar and training session on Workspaces. Collaborative Workspaces engage and thrive with M365. I'm your host. My name is Christine Bundy. I'm the Director of Customer Success. And today we're going to be going over exactly like what is a workspace, what's a workspace versus committee, what are workspace categories, and then how to create a workspace, and then how to change workspace notifications. We'll also go through some best practices. So what is a workspace? So this is a collaborative space where you can allow members that have permission to have access to an area where they can share documents, information, have discussions. You can even have directories where they can also share their contact information, so they don't have to go to an administrator. They can do it right from within the member portal, having that form area. What's the difference between a workspace and a committee? The main difference between a workspace is a committee, because committees also have workspaces within them. But a committee is based off of roles and based off of durations in which they're within that role. So how long they're within that role. So committees are structured more on roles and the time in which they're in that role. So if you're the new president of an organization, or a chair on the organization, or a treasurer, you're typically in that role for 1 year or 2 years, or whatever your term may be for that role. So that's the main difference. Is committees, you can set roles and the terms in which they're allowed to be in, whereas workspaces is just granting a group of individuals access, whether they're members or non-members, that they can then collaborate in that workspace. Whereas for committees, they can also have a workspace, but again, if they aren't designated with a role or a term or timeline in which they're allowed to be having that role, then they don't get access to the workspace within the committee. All right, so then let's dive into M365. And I'm going to bring up my software here. There we go. So this is our webinar account that we like to use for presentations. And so I'm on the CRM side of things. So I'm on, if I go up to my URL at the top here, it says CRM/home. For workspaces, they're not created or developed in the CRM. They're actually created in the member portal. And you have to have admin permissions in order to create them and order to have access to making updates to them. So this is when you might have like board members might create workspaces, or you might have a membership volunteer that is monitoring them, because it is always recommended that if you do create a workspace, you at least have an admin being checking in on it weekly to make sure that everybody is being ethical and everybody is making sure that they're within your moral codes that you guys are associated with. So just having a best practice just to keep an eye on them, or at least have someone there who can keep an eye on them and monitor them, whether it's the speaker of an event who's going through the form, or an administrator or a board member. So within workspaces, right here, so on the side, it's in the main menu items in the member portal. You can click on it. And so what I'm first going to go over is what are categories. So you can kind of create categories, kind of like your folders within your documents. So you can create different levels of workspaces and group certain ones together. So there's a few examples in here already. So for example, if you're a chapter association, you could have a chapter for each of the chapters, or a workspace for each of your chapters, and only those chapters get access to the workspace. And I'm going to show you in a few minutes again how to create them and how to do those different accesses. But this is just to kind of give you an overview of what it's going to look like, so when we do the setup, you understand where it's coming from. So other things that you can do are just like general discussion forums. So they could be on different topics. They could be on policies, kind of anything along those lines. You could also do workspaces for all of your events. So if you are consistently doing educational webinars and you want those recordings to be available or allow people to have discussions about them, you can put them in as workspaces. And you can even embed into the description the video for that. So only people, so you could upload the video to your YouTube, put it as private, and then embed it into the workspace so that it's right in the description. And I'll show you how to do all this in a little bit as well. So those are things that you are fully, that have the capability of doing. So all of the workspaces can have a little bit of a customization to them. And so here's the example of that workspace having it be embedded, or that video being embedded directly in, and then you can have a discussion on these items. And then any related files, so like the presentation or any documents that you may have wanted to add in addition with that lesson, you can also have in here and be able to share that content with the people that have registered for the event, or it could be a member benefit. So maybe as a member benefit, they get access to all these training sessions that you can post in here for them and only they get access to. All right, so we're going to go back. All right, so those are the different categories. So you can create different categories, or you can keep it simple and not have them in categories and simply just workspaces, depending on your needs and how you need to organize things. So how to create a workspace. So if I'm on this page and I'm an administrator, I see this button that says create a workspace. I also can go up here to the administration option. Again, you have to be an administrator to be able to create workspaces in the member portal, not the CRM, the member portal. When you come here, this is where you can simply just click on create a workspace, but I'm actually going to go in and look at the different ones that we've already created in here. One thing I want to say is I was talking about the work category, the workspace category. This is where you can manage that. So this is where you can come in, and if you click on here, you can see the different types, the categories that are created, and then what you can add like subcategories if you want to, and kind of break it down even more as an option. So you can kind of do those different tiers if you're looking to really organize. So like if you have webinars, you could have 2022 and then break it down to each of the webinars for 2022 and 2023 and 2024 as you grow. So things are lots of capabilities depending on what you're looking to do. So let's go back. All right, so let's say, for example, we come in and we go to create a workspace. We can come up, and I'm just going to actually pull up the financial one that we were looking at already. So this is where you can also come in and edit these. And just give me a second to load. And the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna give a name and a description. It does require a description, and I highly recommend that you are accurate with what is the description for this. So making sure that people understand what this discussion is for. If it's not very clear in the name, having a good detail of what it's about. So for this one, it's about the webinars. It's showing you the video. You can embed the video right in here by simply using the source code. So when you get the embed code from YouTube, you would simply just click on source code and you can embed it in. One thing I will recommend that you do is when you do embed them in, make sure they're at like 100%. So like the width is at 100% so that it will auto adjust as needed, and also be good for mobile. Next options are your workspace options. So what do you want to enable? So do you want this workspace to be bookmarked? What does that mean? Well, it means that it's going to appear on the home page. So when they log into the dashboard, it's on that home page for them, and they can click it right away and be able to have access to it. Do you want to have a discussion forum? Again, if you enable the discussion forum option, make sure you have someone on your team just monitoring it, even if they just go in once a week, or if they turn on their notifications to just daily getting those notifications in their inbox so they keep an eye on it. Then you have your file library. So do you want to be able to allow administrators to upload files, as well as, or maybe the member of that group files? And then do you want to enable events? So do you want to allow people for this event to only have access to it? So when you create an event, when it says go to a specific workspace, do you want this to be enabled so that they can actually see this workspace as an option? Then we have the directory. So in a workspace, you can also have a directory so members can connect with other members or contacts can connect with other contacts, because you can have these for non-members as well. You can have it open to anybody who attends an event, whether a member or non-member, as a benefit of purchasing that ticket. When you enable this, you can also select which options you want to be available. Now, when these are selected below, they are displayed. The contacts are not able to change them. So once they're so if I have the organization and email address as an individual, I can't go in and change that. It's kind of set in stone. So just be careful if you're enabling cell phones, cell numbers, or anything along those lines. It might be something you want to ask people if they're okay with, or have as a disclaimer for an event that it will be available. Otherwise, it might be something that you turn off. But just be aware that once you enable these settings, individuals cannot disable them. They are kind of a one for all who has access to the system. And I will actually just enable this quickly just to show what it would look like. So we'll turn on a couple of these. Then we have your notifications. So it's highly recommended. Best practice is set this to never. If you, and you don't have to force it. So you can force it if you don't want people to ever get notifications that things are going on in this workspace. However, I always like to set it to never and then not force it, so that it allows members to go to their workspace notifications and update that to whatever they like it to be. If you force it a certain way, then they aren't able to make any of those adjustments. I like to give control to the users so that they can determine what frequency they like to be communicated at as much as possible. So this is why I always set it to never, so they're not getting bombarded right away and getting frustrated with any type of notifications. They have no idea what they're for. So as part of kind of your onboarding package with your membership, it's always great if you are using Workspaces to kind of include that, to be like, hey, we got this great thing called Workspaces. Here's where you go, and then here's how you change your notifications. And again, I'm going to show you where that is in a couple of minutes. But you can set it to any of the above. So it can be instant, so right away, as soon as somebody uploads a file or puts a message in a form, they can get notified, or daily. So at the end of the day, they'll get notified with whatever has gone on in that workspace, or it's once a week or monthly or not at all. Again, my recommendation is saying never and saying not forced, and then they can go in and adjust it to what frequency they want to get notified, if they want to get notified. Then how do you assign individuals or groups of individuals to a workspace? Well, you do it through the assign automated workspace access. So here, when you come in here, I can make a list. So I can make a list of everybody that attended this webinar and grant them access. And they can just simply have access to the material that is provided to them. Or you can say, well, I'm going to allow you to actually be able to participate in the discussions, in the forums, but I'm not going to let you upload files, and you're not going to be allowed to edit the description. So this I only would ever turn on if you want people to edit the content at the very beginning with the video. This is typically only for administrators. So if you have a group of staff members that you always want to have access to all workspaces, that you may want to enable. But again, as administrators, they can come in and make those adjustments as needed in the member portal. So I'm going to say yes, they can, and I'm going to update that. The other way you could do it is simply, you can do it by list, or you can also do it by membership category. So anybody with this category. Now, that also means if they are lapsed. So if they are active or lapsed, they can have access. If they want a specific only active members in a specific category, that's when you would create a list. You can also go by event. So you can select the event that they attended, and then those people can get access to the space. Then this is when you would assign your category. So that's what we talked about before when we went over and we saw the layout. So this one is assigned to event webinars. If you had other categories, you can also assign it to those as well. And then you can also set up categories for your files. So if you're going to have a workspace with lots of files, maybe you have policies, or a great practice that we always recommend is having a general information workspace for all active members. And that way you can upload any like new policies, any procedures, any new laws that are passed, any updates that kind of require their attention. It's just another way of communicating with them. It's also great for starting conversations and getting members engaged. So whenever you do get these workspaces, we can always go in and start those conversations on behalf of people. Once you're done, you can hit save, or you can go to next step. So next step is where you can actually assign to specific individuals. So maybe you don't have a big list of everybody that you want. Maybe you only want to have 4 people to have access to it. Well, you can come in and find those 4 individuals and just grant them that access if you wish to. Okay, so that's how we create a workspace. And just to kind of, again, go back into the workspaces that we just reviewed. So I'm going to go down to the financial webinar. I can see these, and then I can come in to my posts. I can see what has been previously posted. I can start the discussion. You can always provide other links or articles or other things so that people can add to that discussion, because you are able to provide links and kind of get that conversation going. So kind of asking as you go. The one thing that we did enable within the workspace is the directory. So this is what the directory would look like. So for those individuals, so it would give a list of everybody who has access to the space. And when you click on their name, it would give any further details that you provided that you wanted to have available, if you allow that to be possible. So if we go back, the other thing that individuals can do is they can add it bookmark themselves. So you can bookmark this to the homepage. You can automate it in the settings, but individuals can also come in and do that themselves if need be. And then the final thing is, how do people change their notifications? So let's say they want to change all their notifications to never or instant, weekly, or one of the other options. So you can go up to my account and you go down to email notifications. In this area, there's a tab called workspace notifications. So this will be all of the workspaces that are available. Now, a lot of these are set to force never. So they can't see if there's no X's here, means these ones cannot be adjusted. I can only adjust the ones that have the option enabled. So we have this one enabled on the one that we were working on. So I can make this and I say, I want to get updated daily. If there's any discussions or uploaded files at the end of the day, I'd love to get an email just to know what's going on. So those are settings that you can adjust, or the contact can adjust, because you can impersonate an individual and do this on their behalf, but the contact can go in and make those adjustments as needed. And then if we scroll down, just to kind of show you, this is what I mean by bookmarks. This is where those bookmarks are going to be. So I can get easy access to it right here from the dashboard. And then I can see any recent activity from any of the workspaces that I have access to. One final thing I always like to point out with Workspaces too is there's also this other great tool called Files. It's connected automatically with Workspaces. It grants me access to see any file of a workspace that I am associated to. So if I have permission to that workspace, I then have all my files collaborated in here, and I can search by keywords or by simply the workspaces. But maybe I don't remember what workspaces is in, so I can start searching keywords and be able to pull up the different folders that might be available. So I could say basics or basic, and it will pull up the basic file that's in the finance webinar series that we were just looking at. So it will be able to depict that, or you could simply go, I want to know all the files that were in this webinar, and it'll pull all of them up for you in one space so you can have it, so you can view them. All right, so then let's head back to our slides and let's go through some best practices. So I had mentioned, make sure you have an accurate description of your workspace and its purpose. So why is this workspace? What is it being used for? Is it a general for all information? Is it for a webinar and you're posting a video and allowing for discussions? What is the purpose behind it? So that people understand why they're in that workspace, or maybe they're in the wrong one and they need to go to a different one. Always set the notification to never, but allowing that not to be forced. So when you're setting notifications for Workspace, again, I always recommend that it's never but not forced, and then they can go in and make that adjustment as needed, instead of you having it kind of set for everybody. And then make sure you monitor your workspaces. So have someone on your team or board or volunteer just checking in on them once a week, making sure that people are following your ethics and moral codes within your organization and policies, as well as just maybe adding to the conversation, getting people started, asking questions, getting people talking, is another great way to get them engaged in collaborating together. All right, so do we have any questions for today? If you do have any questions, you can put them into the Q&A. If not, and you have any questions following this, don't hesitate to reach out. So there is lots of options for reaching out to this, to us. So we have lots of videos. So this one will also be available on our YouTube channel. We have knowledge base. You can always submit a support ticket. If you have premium support, you can book a call and have our chat options. Please let us know if you'd like to know more about premium support. If you're in onboarding, don't hesitate to reach out to your onboarding coach to learn a little bit more about Workspaces. And then you can always subscribe to our newsletters for great monthly tips, what webinars are upcoming, and our monthly blog. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you, and I look forward to seeing you next time.